Rolling, guys.
Oh, right. Now we can reconnect with the idea of flow state mindset and finding coherence through the act of speech. It's something that I love too from music and from expressing myself maybe through the drums. Is when I play the drums. I've been a drummer since I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And with movement, I also find that flow.
Claro.
Connecting with the instrument, the movements and the rhythms are something that you feel deep in not just the mind, but the body, right? And
Claro.
speech, I feel, could be the same thing, an instrument, the voice vibrating here, kind of moving all our molecules. Why? That's why sometimes I imitate you
Yeah,
to
yeah,
to
yeah.
you
That's
know
true.
to achieve this. Actually, I'm kind of doing it right now.
Sí. Yeah, no, I feel what you're saying. It's funny that you mentioned drumming. It's the one instrument I always wanted to play. My uncle was a drummer and he's a surfer, so he was somebody that clearly had that connection to flow and rhythm and the idea of getting in sync. I grew up playing piano. I played guitar. I was better at piano than guitar. Drums I never like fully got into, but I think that I ended up really finding my rhythm in language. My mom teaches literature. She taught literature for 40 plus years. So I grew up surrounded by books and poetry and an appreciation for beautiful discourse. I was also a reader from a very young age. So when you develop an affinity and a facility for reading, you fall in love with how sentences are articulated, and then it just becomes like second nature. I think I was always also obsessed with explication, and I think as somebody who grew up bilingual, you're always trying to, and I was very good at English and Spanish, entonces translating lo que significa esto into English and back again made me more flexible because I was always trying to find like analogies, like what does this mean in English versus Spanish, and how do I find something, especially when you're talking about like Venezuelan slang. You're contextualizing, you're finding analogies, you're sometimes thinking metaphorically, and I think that those two things, I sort of found my power in language somehow.
That's fantastic, and I now want to take it maybe to the language of imagery
Sure.
and the fact that we live in this sliver of time
Yeah.
where photography exists.
Mm.
What do you think, as a wanderer of the mind,
Yeah.
that bombardment of images and just the cherish of this technology and the bombardment of it now in the era of AI is doing to our brains?
You're talking about photography as a medium, like what
Uh,
photography does to the. Okay.
exactly. What do you think maybe photography does to us? Like, we're the only monkeys that have mastered, that we know
Yeah.
of, this
Yeah.
technology for such a short period of time.
Yeah. Sure.
That's
I think that it was a technology that was incredibly transformative because it allowed us to freeze time for once, right? I think that we were painting and we were making art, and we've always been creatures that are trying to like turn our imagination inside out to articulate what's going on in our inner world and express it. We've been doing that since cave paintings, and also to express what we see and how the world looks to us. And that's what artists and painters have always done. It's always about capturing a moment, capturing a point of view, capturing a perspective, freeze framing, something significant and worthwhile and cementing it in time. With the camera, I think we made a big leap because it just gave us total authorship of the moment. And I think, well, for me at least, my love of taking pictures, or my love of photographers rather, is the training that ends up having upon how we meet the world. If you practice photography in any way, you develop a kind of muscle memory and a way of seeing and a way of attending to the world that I think makes you develop an aesthetic relationship with the world that is a relief from the more transactional and survivalist relationship that most people have with the world. I feel like photographers are always in a state of heightened noticing. You know, they see beauty, they see poetry in everyday things, and that's a real gift. And I think that, you know, photography taught us how to see more and pay more attention, you would say.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
That's beautiful
beautiful.
for both as photographers.
Oh, you guys are
Uh,
both photographers.
yes, yeah,
Uh-huh.
my dad as well.
Okay. Yeah, one of
So
my best friends is a photographer, and he's one of the most joyful people. And I love traveling with the guy because everywhere we go, he's always noticing the light, how the light hits an image, how the light hits a moment. I try to bring photographic consciousness or aesthetic consciousness to everything I do. I wear, you know, colored lenses.
yes,
I
I
add
love that.
soundtrack to things, you know, because what I want to cultivate is something called aesthetic distance. And I think that's what the photographer cultivates. The aesthetic distance separates and then reconnects. First, it separates, it puts a lens between you and the world, but then that lens makes you attend more closely, right? As you attend to the lens, the world comes into view in a more clear way, wakes us up from the slumber in which most of us live. So it's this concept of aesthetic distance that it's an amazing thing. And I think it's intimately connected to photography in general.
Yeah, and I'm a very visual person. I need that in my life. And
Yeah.
maybe it's a blessing and a curse at the same time because if it's not like that, I cannot process. But it's part of me, the
Yeah.
aesthetic and design, that's part of myself. So that's
Yeah.
why I love every time you walk through nature,
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about any topic, it's just, I think, highlights the idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think aesthetics matter. Some
Yeah.
people are dismissive of aesthetics and beauty. You know, a short-sighted person might say, "Oh, that's so shallow" or whatnot. And you know, I think that when people say that, what they really mean is that it's not just about the surface of things in the context of like whether a human being is attractive or
Oh
not, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's not when I talk about beauty, I'm not just talking about the surface of things. I'm talking about their inner luminescence. But
Yeah.
I'm also talking about, you know, shapes and light and colors and a way of attending to the world. You know, things reveal themselves in all of their suchness, as Aldous Huxley said, when we cleanse the doors of perception. And I think it was Henry Miller who said even a blade of grass, when given proper attention, becomes a magnificent thing in itself. So really, it's a way of seeing that I think reveals the beauty that is inherent in almost everything.
That's lovely. And we're so lucky that we can actually live in a privileged time where we can devote ourselves to art. It's crazy that we live in this time and that you're in Amsterdam right now.
Yeah.
We're talking to you through some cables through the sea
Yes, exactly.
and through
Doesn't even make
satellites. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And we're recording this, and you're a big head and you're a big television for us. I'm actually very much into I'm kind of obsessed because of the Venezuelan exile.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that distance became this annoying little phone. Like my dad became this small, annoying, high-pitched voice for me. Instead, I'm always willing or wanting to enlarge at least there and enhance
Like
the
Zoom calls
audio.
on the big screen if you can.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would encourage whoever's with us and is
Yeah.
looking at us to do that. To move your furniture, doesn't matter if it looks bad. Bring the TV, which is usually in some homes, and bring people to the size of how more or less they were. Like this experience today is new to me. It's
Yeah.
the first time,
Yeah.
and I've been thinking about this idea for years, and I didn't execute it. And with you, Jason, right now, you're the first person to do it with me, and it feels
So
amazing.
yeah, it feels beautiful.
So we are recording and also kind of acknowledging the presence of the TV right
Yeah,
there. So
yeah. We've talked about, the love and the deep connections. And how do you explain, or from your experience, how to deal with lost love? How do you?
Yeah, well, I think lost love, I think, fits within the larger concept of loss. And
Yes.
for sure, it's something that I've had a contentious relationship with since I was a kid. I found it profoundly haunting, the sort of realization that things are transient. You know, beautiful moments fade, sunsets fade, time passes. My first viral video was called Existential Bummer back in 2013. It's the first video that blew up on YouTube, and it was just me basically like sort of communicating the anguish of the passing moment, especially for a romantic or a musician or an artist or anybody who's sensitive and who's paying attention and who is privy to beautiful, transformative moments of appreciation, compassion, awe, and wonder. That's just like, oh my God, like I'm holding so much beauty in this moment, but it's slipping through my fingers, you know. And some might say that's what makes the moment beautiful, that it's transient and that it has to pass so that you can make room for the next moment. And I've tried to sort of internalize that poetic perspective, to live with a kind of equanimity, or what I call aesthetic distance, or beautiful detachment, which is be an observer but don't get too attached to things. And that's fine if we were immortal.
Exactly.
You know, moments can pass as long as we persist, but I still find it very depressing that people grow old and die. That I'm not at peace with. And of course, I don't know the whole picture. I don't know the mystery before we came, and I don't know the mystery of what happens after. But as I see it now, the erasure of those we love is not something I'm comfortable with.
How do you deal with this?
I
like
don't
Jason.
feel that I'm toward. No, I think I just doubled down on making more art. I like my mother. Her house is surrounded by her art, but also photos everywhere of us as kids, of the past. And I get very anxious looking at the photos, not because I don't feel intense feelings and love for those images. I do, but it makes me feel anguish, and it makes me feel loss that I don't feel if I'm in the present. Now, I have the great privilege that I'm in the present moment of a beautiful life where I get to do what I love, and I'm in good health and all that jazz, you know. Maybe looking at photos when you're 95, even more depressing, but at least a relief from being 95 and facing the end, you know. But yeah, in general, I don't like to think about it because I find it off-putting. I find the idea of losing those you love, or the idea of mourning your own lost childhood. Like I have, you know, on a great day when I'm in flow, I'm just having a great day in flow. On a day that I'm excited about a new project, I'm just excited about a new project. But some days in between, when I'm, you know, recovering from a heavily flow-filled day, I might get melancholic. I get invaded by melancholy, and I'm like, I want to visit my 17-year-old self. I wish I could go back to 10th grade and like live at home and like go to high school with the wisdom I have now, and I would appreciate it maybe more. You know, I loved high school, but I'm like, oh, I would go back now. It's like, oh my God, I would just have so much fun with all this shit, you know, like, so it's, yeah, it's weird. The human experience is weird. It's really weird. It's beautiful and strange and weird.
Yeah. Wow, man. It's crazy how much I relate to you with that.
Yeah.
I think daily I go back and and change some things that I would say to this girl, you know, or to that guy when he told me that thing. But you know what? I find it's so cool that we can be explorers of our own imagination like that. Because so this might be controversial, but I don't often have the sense of, oh, I'm wasting time. So if I'm imagining that moment, for me, I'm kind of living it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's cool about what you're saying, but it's also it's a bit tragic that how it ties to the image or the photography. You said that what triggered most of that melancholy when you go back home is seeing those images. We weren't able to do that. We are the only 100 years monkeys dealing with this constant reminder in your home of your ancestors that weren't maybe a bust, you know?
You're 100% right. I mean, it's super bizarre what it does to the brain, what it does to the mind, to look at perfect photographically real images of 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it may be. Like it's strange. I think disjointing and off-putting. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, well, some other people say, well, we invented the camera, so it must have been part of our destiny or our creative capacity to create these tools and technologies. And I'm like, sure. We can travel in the mind, and now we can travel through our photographic artifacts, you know, and maybe those artifacts are just an extension of our memory. I mean, that we tend to extend our mind with our tools and technologies, and I think photography is an extension of our memory in a way.
Okay, the last two questions are, first, this is our question for To the Tango. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? My goodness. A really good night of sleep brings me joy. Waking up and it's a new day brings me joy. Sun hitting my face in the morning brings me joy. Drinking my first green juice in the morning brings me joy. Knowing that I'm going to go on a hike or a bike ride and have some great cannabis and music and conversation brings me ecstatic joy.
It's just the little things, things in life.
Working on a new video brings me joy. AI filmmaking and experimenting with this new AI as a way of like bringing my imagination in a visual way brings me joy. My mother and father bring me joy. The fact that they're in good health brings me joy. My brother, my friends. Yeah, I get a lot of joy. I feel a lot of joy. I do. Yeah.
What's your passion?
What's my passion? Oh my God, aliveness. I'm passionate about aliveness. I'm passionate about novelty. So anytime I have that felt experience of like turning the corner and seeing something for the first time and the feeling of wonder and curiosity, what's over there? Where does that little path lead to? Oh my God, who is this person? Well, what is this weird culture? Wow, how do they live in this country? And wow, what is the cool infrastructure they have here? It's just like I get joy from all the things. I'm endlessly curious, you know. That's why I'm just like, man, I need 1,000-year health span, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I need 1,000 years of exploration and good health and in youth. And life needs to. I just there's so much to see and pay attention to and marvel at. So
I love it. I love it. We have to go to Amsterdam.
We're gonna come to Amsterdam
Jason.
a visitarte, Jason.
Yeah.
You guys should definitely come. Amsterdam is a fantastic city, and if you come in the spring or summer, it's a very unusual way of like relating to an urban landscape. Feels like you're in an open air museum that's bike friendly. Like you enter Disney. As soon as you enter Disney World, it's like, yeah, everything now is on bike. You know, for a creative person, it's a playground. It really is.
You're right. Almost like Hoffman, you know, you have the Hoffman experience every day.
Oh, total.
Qué buena vaina. I've been to Amsterdam like 3 times.
Okay.
One time I went during ITFA because I had a film at the film festival.
Oh, cool.
Y coño, ese contexto del Film Festival, porque yo viví en Bélgica también, ¿no? Y estamos ahí al lado. Cuando tenía 17 viví en Bélgica y eso fue un año que, bueno, I'll make a movie about it. We'll talk about it, but I didn't want to leave this without lighting a joint with you.
Pay more attention to Jason Silva.